So we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to look at just one single day in the life of AI. But what a day it was. It's like it perfectly captured this tension that's right at the heart of AI, right? This explosion of progress happening at the exact same time as this explosion of conflict. It's like seeing two different futures unfolding at once. Let's dig. So what does a single day of AI progress actually look like? It's a great question, isn't it? I mean, we hear about these big breakthroughs all the time, but what does it really feel like on the ground, day to day? Well, on this one specific day, it looked a whole lot less like a science fair and way more like a global wrestling match. Yep, you heard that right. A global battlefield. We're talking geopolitics, culture, law. Everywhere you looked, it seemed like battle lines were being drawn. And all of it was fueled by this crazy acceleration of AI. But here's the thing. At the very same time, something totally different was happening. Kinda under the radar. Something that tells a completely different story. So let's start with the biggest fight of them all.
All right, first up, the new chip war. Think of it as this high-stakes geopolitical chess match. The pieces on the board, these tiny little bits of silicon. And on this particular day, the whole game just took a really sharp, really sudden turn.
So the United States made a big move. The government gave the green light for NVIDIA to sell its super sought-after H200 chips to China. Now, you might hear that and think, oh, okay, maybe they're dialing back the tech Cold War. But, as always, the devil's in the details. Yeah, this was no simple, okay, you can sell them. It was way more strategic than that. The US put this very specific cap on the sales. Basically, Chinese companies could only get their hands on half the number of chips that American customers were buying. It's this policy that's, designed to allow some business, but at the same time, it strictly limits China's ability to really scale up its AI infrastructure with the best of the best tech. And China's response? It was immediate. And just as strategic. Instead of just taking the limited supply they were offered, they pretty much told the United States, you know what? Keep your chips.
And this right here just perfectly shows you the standoff. I mean, look at these two columns. On one side, the US is trying to control the spigot with these caps and reviews. And on the other, China just turns around and tells its own tech giants, don't even bother buying them. They're essentially calling the US's bluff and sending this massive signal that they're going all in on developing their own homegrown AI chips.
So you gotta understand, this back and forth isn't really about the hardware, not at all. It's a fundamental fight for what you might call technological sovereignty. It's about who's gonna have the raw computing power to write the rules for the next 100 years. And that battle, well, it was being fought right there in government memos and shipping manifests. Okay, so next up, artistry versus automation. While all these governments were clashing over silicone, a totally different kind of war was breaking out in the art world. This one was, you could say, a battle for the very soul of human creativity. Right. So on the exact same day that this chip stuff was going down, the indie music platform Bandcamp, which I'm sure a lot of you know and love, made a huge announcement. They took a really firm and, pretty controversial stand on AI's role in art. And this quote, AI slop, man, that really just captures the raw emotion of the moment, doesn't it? Real human musicians and composers were celebrating Bandcamp's move. They were basically calling all this automated content what they thought it was, just slop. For them, this wasn't some technical debate. It was absolutely existential. So here's what the policy actually said. It was a complete wholesale ban. No wiggle room. If music was made wholly or in substantial part by AI, it was out. Bandcamp's whole goal here was to build trust with their users, to promise them that when you're on their site, what you're buying, what you're discovering, it's authentically human. It basically turned the platform into a kind of sanctuary for human art in a world that's getting more and more automated. Okay, so from culture, we're now pivoting over to the law. Because as AI's power grew, so did its potential for doing real harm. And that was forcing lawmakers to step in and draw a new kind of line in the sand, a legal one. And yeah, you guessed it, on this very same day, the US Senate passed something called the Defiance Act. And this thing is a really big deal, a landmark piece of legislation. For the very first time, it gives victims of those horrible, non-consensual deepfakes a federal right to sue the people who created them. So the big question is, why now? What was the trigger? Well, the bill's passage came right after this wave of intense public outrage. It was specifically kicked into high gear by this incident involving explicit images that were generated by Elon Musk's Grok AI. It's just a stark reminder of how quickly real-world harm from AI can light a fire under legislators.
Okay, so if you've been listening so far, it sounds like this one day in AI was just nonstop conflict, right? Chip wars, art wars, legal battles. But that is only half the story. Now we're going to look beyond all those public fights to this quiet but incredibly powerful industrial revolution that was happening at the exact same time.
Yeah, because while all the headlines were full of these fights over chips and art and laws, AI was also quietly weaving itself into the bedrock of the global economy, and it was creating just immense value way outside of the spotlight. And the perfect example of this? Well, it also happened on January 14th.
On this day, the heavy machinery giant Caterpillar, the company you think of for bulldozers and mining trucks, not exactly cutting-edge AI, their stock hit this huge new milestone. And when Wall Street analysts were asked why, they all pointed to one key thing.
The engine driving Caterpillar's success was its really aggressive and, frankly, super effective use of AI. We're talking about AI-powered systems that manage whole fleets of vehicles to make them as efficient as possible. We're even talking about fully autonomous mining operations, with these massive trucks driving themselves, no human driver needed. And this is so important because the Caterpillar story shows us the other face of AI. Not the one that's causing all this friction culturally or geopolitically, but the one that's just a powerful, practical tool. A tool for making things safer, more efficient, and driving real economic growth. It's a true engine for industrial progress. So let's pull back and bring it all together. Let's look at the full picture of that one day, January 14th, 2026. It was just one day, but it showed us two completely different worlds of AI existing right alongside each other. And this slide, it just sums up that incredible duality of the day perfectly. On the left, you've got conflict and regulation. You've got governments fighting over tech, artists fighting for authenticity, lawmakers trying to contain the damage. And then on the right, you have this quiet, steady progress and value. You've got these old school industries just using AI to become more profitable and efficient than they've ever been. What this single day really shows us is that AI isn't just one thing. It's kind of everything all at once. It's a foundational technology, like electricity was. It just changes everything it touches. And that's exactly why it's both a tool for incredible progress and a catalyst for intense conflict. And so it leaves us with what might be the defining question of our time. Which of these two powerful opposing forces is ultimately going to win out and shape the world that we all live in?